some small balls.
You have what?
I have some small ones, like for
The little
my
balls.
release.
Oh, like little massage
The
balls.
little lacrosse ones, yeah.
Yeah, no, they'd be too small. No.
They're
So if
too small.
we're having a ball, we want something that could be held between the knees quite readily, about the size of a hand or a bit larger.
Okay, I'll have to use a block then.
Yeah, and then, well, the other thing we can do if we don't like the block is we can fold up a cushion. And what I would do sometimes is I would tie a resistance band or a scarf around it so that it doesn't fall apart. But you can actually work with a cushion just squashed between the knees, because once it's between your knees, it won't unfold, but you can tie it up if you want to. So a yoga block, we will need extra cushions for the restorative portion towards the end. If you are like me and some of the others here today in a cold situation, cold climate or whatever, get a blanket on the floor, and we'll also at some point need our bolsters. You're very welcome to already be using some of those props. So we're going to start lying on our back. I'm going to mute the live participants so that you get to see the screen. If I can find out how. Why can't I find out how? I'll just have to mute you separately. So lying on your back if suits, or you can lie on your side. And you're welcome to, as I say, lie on a blanket, under a blanket, have a blanket folded somewhere under you. I'm just trying to extrapolate mine from under some books here. Not extrapolate, extricate. So for those of you who are joining during the recording, this may not be the first class you've done since Christmas. It's the holidays. But because certainly this is my first class teaching since the holidays, I'm going to start gentle for your bodies. So when you arrive on the floor, just consider for yourself, have I chosen the right spot for me? And what do you base that on? How have you chosen your position, the things that you have with you to make you more comfortable? And is there something that you wish you had brought with you to your mat that you might bother to go and get to better serve you in ease? Might be something for warmth or comfort. Because we're going to spend maybe 6 minutes here officially in stillness, but if you need to move at any point, just move. You can change your position anytime you like in this practice and indeed in life. And if what you've chosen in your position on the floor is serving you and you feel perfectly content, could you notice what is it about that position that is serving you? Might not be just the position, it could be the supports, blankets, etc. What do you like about this moment? So when we attune to what is likable about this moment or about this choice we've made, we may find that the nervous system gets a slightly faster track to ease. Because the nervous system, though it does like little challenges, mostly wants to know that it's safe and in all circumstances, maybe not all, many circumstances, it is the information we're taking in through our senses that helps us understand if something's safe. So we use our smell to determine if something is safe to eat. We use our temperature regulation to make sure that we're in a temperature where we won't get hypothermic or overheat. We use a sense of pleasure in the body to determine whether something is dangerous for us or good for us. So when you tune in to what feels good in your body, you may be consciously helping yourself or helping your nervous system by saying, look, nervous system, this feels good. And the converse is true, that if we cheat and pretend that pain is good, that it is improving us or fixing us or necessary evil, we may lose the trust of our nervous system, which hears us ignoring the signals that it's trying to give us, which say, no, don't do this. So taking that forward into the practice to honor the no and pursue the yes from your nervous system. How does it feel now if you were to make a commitment to honor the no and pursue the yes? To move away from pain and pushing and towards pleasure and enjoyment. Has that changed your breath? Has it changed your weight on the floor? Has it changed your expectation of the practice? And might it even have changed your perspective? Perhaps in particular, the perspective that we sometimes put upon ourselves at the beginning of a calendar year. Respecting the no and pursuing the yes from our nervous system. And if your breath hasn't already deepened, then let it begin to lengthen Preferably breathing in and out through your nose for the entire practice. And if you can't manage the nasal breathing, at least try to breathe in through the nose, and you can exhale through the mouth if necessary. And if for any reason you can't breathe in through your nose, try to remain relaxed in the jaw. And even though you may be breathing through your mouth, if you're stuffed up in the nose or if it's a bit triggering for you to breathe through the nose, could you imagine that the breath is coming through the nose? It may just slow down the inhalation. But as I say, preferably using the nose for the whole practice, unless we're consciously sighing or sounding. And then just tune in as you continue to breathe deeply to any bit of your body that is struggling at the moment. It might be something physical, like a dodgy shoulder, or it might be an issue with blood pressure, or it might be a general sense of aches and pains, whatever it is. And in whatever system, muscular, skeletal, cardiovascular, etc., whatever system that is, could you imagine a sense of ease drifting over that part of you, that whole system, all the muscles or the entire cardiovascular system, etc.? As if all of those components had just arrived home after a long journey and were able finally to melt into the sofa or melt into your bed that you've missed for weeks. Maybe imagining those bits of you sighing out with relief. And just picture in that rest, a healing, a sense of repair and strengthening. And as you lie, keeping your head nice and heavy, allow your head to roll to one side, nice and slow. And allow it to roll back to center. And allow it to roll to the other side, nice and slow. And back to center eventually. And then just allow your chin to slide slightly down towards your throat. So you're not lifting your head. You're just thinking of the chin sliding down, so you almost get a double chin. And notice how that brings length into the back of your neck. And breathing. And notice your two shoulder blades and imagine the two shoulder blades melting over the floor like pools of oil. And taking your hands down onto the floor at about just, 3 inches away from your body. I'm going to kneel up to show you. You don't have to look unless you're confused by my instructions. So your hands are a little bit away from your body with the palms facing up, and roll your hands in towards your hips. So you roll the palms down and then keep rolling till the backs of your hands touch your hips, and press the backs of your hands to your hips. That's it. And then inhaling, roll them out to where they began. Oh, opening the palms up and maybe rolling even a little further than that so the shoulder blades really come onto the floor. Exhale, roll them in and press the backs of the hands to the outer hips. And inhale, roll them out and maybe even slightly artificially a bit further towards the thumb. So the shoulder blades really go onto the floor, and exhale, roll them in again. And as you do that, keep focusing on your pectoral muscles, the muscles between the fronts of your shoulders and your sternum, your breastbone. And notice that as you bring the backs of the hands to your outer hips, those muscles shorten from the shoulders to the sternum. And as you roll the hands away, those muscles lengthen and soften. As you roll and glide the shoulders, try and allow this to be as smooth and stutter-free as possible. Relaxing the jaw and looking for what feels pleasurable. So don't think of this as a fixing things exercise. Think of it as a connection of brain to body and a smooth and pleasurable movement. We're just getting into the shoulders a little bit on a physiological level, but also getting into that red light response when we shorten the front of our body and contract when we're stressed, but also reminding the body that we can open out into the expression of ease, which is openness in the chest. Couple more, exhaling to roll in, feeling that deliberate shortening of the front of the chest and feeling that smooth lengthening of those same muscles as you roll out. The next time the arms roll out, also if you could have your knees bent, I beg your pardon, let the knees roll out as the arms roll out. The soles of the feet will touch, more or less. And as you exhale and the arms roll in, let the knees come together. Inhaling, rolling everything out. Knees and hands, chest opening, pelvis opening. There'll be an arch to the spine. Exhale, rolling in. Again, go as soft and easy as you can with as little judder and stutter, smoothing out the hiccups. And you're really welcome to change anything you need to change at any time. But what we're doing here, obviously, is we're shortening the front body on the exhale, and we're lengthening the front body on the inhale, arching the spine on the inhale, and flattening the back on the exhale. We'll let that arch and flatten be there in the lower back. A few more now. If your arms are tired, leave them out and just do the winging open of the knees and the winging closed of the knees, with maybe no movement in the arms or an echo of the movement in the arms. Two more with the knees, with or without the arms. And when you're done, let your legs glide out long and just rest everything in neutral and see, can you particularly melt the shoulders and notice any sensations body-wide that you're interested in noticing. And particularly notice what feels good right now. Keeping the legs long, could you open your left foot out towards the bottom left corner of your mat? If you're on a blanket, just imagine the size of a mat, of a yoga mat, and bring the left foot to the left corner, and then join that foot with the right leg. So your 2 feet are over at the bottom left corner. Shift your head and shoulder girdle to the top left corner, so you're in a banana shape, and that may be enough for you. Depending on how your shoulder is today, you might want to bring your right arm and drape it overhead. If that's tricky, but you don't want the arm all the way down the side, it can be helpful to put a cushion beside your head, and in your banana pose, you can rest your arm on a cushion so that the arm isn't trying to get to the floor at the expense of comfort in the shoulder. If you want, you can cross your right ankle over left. If you want, you can gently hold the wrist of your right hand with your left hand. And if you're crossing the ankle over, think about doing that only because you just need that extra little bit of yumminess rather than feeling like I have to do this because that's what yoga looks like, going to the nth degree. There is no nth degree because everybody's body has a different point of interest, a different point of shift and expansion. And then using your inhales to enjoy the movement, the extra blanket of sensation that comes with the breath, the inhale, expanding the tissue on the right side a bit more. Go easy with yourself. We're looking for pleasant sensation with 2 buttocks and 2 shoulders on the floor. So avoid the temptation to roll to your left side. 3 more breaths here. Can you melt the shoulders a little more, the buttocks a little more? And the normal yin practice, we might spend 5 minutes here. And if you would like to, you can just pause the video, those of you who are doing the recording, and spend longer. But we're using this more as a segue into a practice rather than a yin practice in itself. Let's take the right leg off, bring it to the other side of the mat, and just come back to symmetrical before you go to the other side. And notice the sensations in the body again. And then keeping the right foot at the right bottom corner of the mat, bring the left foot to join. Shift your head and shoulders slightly to the right as well. Take the left arm overhead if it will rest, or on a cushion beside your head if it won't rest, or you can rest it on your chest or by your side if it's too much. Hook the left ankle over right if you like. Maybe rest the left wrist in the right hand. And I'm going to leave you in silence for this 1.5 minutes of deep breathing, noticing and hopefully enjoying the sensation of breath in your tissues. And then instead of rolling onto your back again, let's roll onto your side and onto your belly. Apologies for teaching in a big long coat, but it's freezing here today and my heater's a bit funny. So I hope you can see me okay. So you're lying on your belly and you're welcome to put your forehead on your hands, or you're welcome to rest with your cheek on the floor and your arms down by your sides. That might be a bit much if you have osteoporosis or a sore neck or a sore shoulder, but it also can be quite nice if you have a sore shoulder to rest on a cheek with the arms down by the sides, because it kind of necessitates quite a lot of flexibility in the shoulder and neck. And it might be exactly what you need, or it might be exactly what you don't need. But just noticing what suits you today. And I also would ask you to choose a position, again, where you can melt and where your nervous system feels listened to. And enjoy, if it's enjoyable, the sensation of the presence of the floor under the front of your body and the movement of your body against the floor with your breath. But what you might also find is that you feel more movement from your breath in your back. So allow the breath to rise and fall into the back ribs and the spine. And checking in with your shoulders, could you bring your elbows forward now and rest your forehead on your hands, and you're just looking down to the floor between your elbows rather than looking forward, so that the back of the neck isn't collapsed, the throat isn't hanging down to the floor. Preferably support the head, that's it, exactly. So you feel a really gentle back bend. And then just notice the position of your shoulders. Are you scrunching them up around your ears, or are they giving you a little space? Are you able to maintain a little space between your shoulders and your ears? Sliding the shoulder blades down. Notice any issues in your shoulders that you might want to protect. And just get used to the idea of extension in the spine in this very gentle way. This is the kind of movement I think we find very difficult to do on our own, this slow, gentle movement. I think once we get into our own practice, we tend to, and I would do it myself, be more concerned with ticking boxes of I've done this, I've done that, I've done a bit of strength, I've done a bit of mobilization in this direction, that direction, I've stretched this and that. But actually just being able to really slow down, crawl inside and be subtle, I think is something that it's easier to do when it's being suggested to you. And then if you can, come up to your elbows into Sphinx pose. Elbows under the shoulders, palms in front of the elbows, like a Sphinx. And if that's not comfortable for your lower back or anywhere else in your body, then go back to where we were. One of my trainee teachers used the phrase when she was going through a number of layers of a particular exercise, that if you want to get off the bus, meaning stop if you need to. But I also would suggest that you're welcome to go back to the bus stop before. Shoulders back from the ears again. And this one might not be as sustainable because there's no support for the head, so we won't stay quite as long as the last one. But here you could potentially still relax the belly. And the next one, I ask you for a bit of belly tone. So almost imagine that you're trying to peel your abdomen off the floor from the navel down towards the pubic bones. And that might create a little pressure of the pubic bones onto the floor. Turn your hands out, or rather angle your arms out from the elbows. So your hands will be wider than your mat in a sort of seal shape. That's it. Inhale here, keep peeling that navel off the floor, and as you exhale, lift the elbows from the floor. So you'll be more like a seal now and check in with your shoulder issues. Is this okay for you? Do you need to get off the bus to stop earlier? Take it back a moment. Or you're happy here. And just notice what it would be like to bring a little movement into your neck, shoulders, or chest while keeping a bit of tone in the belly and the pelvic floor, but bringing yourself into a little sensual dance so that it's not all frozen posturing, but actually a real-time investigation of movement. Maybe it's the nose wanting to draw figures of 8 on the floor or swirly patterns. Again, probably not all that sustainable for a long time. So we're going to inhale here. Maybe there's movement, maybe there's not. And exhale down to the elbows again, enough that you can slide your hands back under your shoulders, tuck your toes, inhale. And exhale, push up onto all fours. If you're struggling with shoulder issues, you might want to crawl the knees up first before you push yourself up so it's not like a press up. And just checking you're okay on your hands. Those of you who are live, give me a thumbs up in terms of shoulder issues and stuff. That's great. Okay, cool. So those of you who are in the recording, if you can't manage being up on all fours, you can come down to elbows, or you can go up onto knuckles. So you can always go lying on your back and putting your legs and the arms in the air. But if we're on the floor, we're going to draw a figure of 8. So we're bringing the weight to the left hand, right hand, left knee, right knee, left hand, right hand, left knee, right knee. Now you might be able to continue that without my guidance. And what I'd like you to think about, more than going from one limb to the other limb, is that you're drawing a big figure of 8 on the floor with your navel. So think more into the trunk than the limbs. Change direction with your figure of 8 if you can, which might be a bit neurologically difficult. And that's quite a good idea if it is a bit tricky. Let's say you were flowing in one direction and you're not flowing here, is to try and train the body and brain to find that flow. We'll be off the hands in a sec, just another maybe 5 or 6 figures of 8. And see if you can let it free up a bit so it's not too scientific, not too mathematical, and you can be a bit squirmy in the spine. Pleasure and body expression. And then when you're ready, if your feet will take it, sit back on your heels and glide up to a sitting kneel. And if you can't sit back on your heels, you can come up to a standing kneel. So you get to decide. And just resting your hands, you might want to turn the palms up to feel the blood flow coming back in, or you might be happy with how they already were. And in case you've forgotten it, come back to your breathing. And we're going to get a little bit torturous on the feet now. If at all possible, can you lean back onto your hands? And if at all possible, lift your knees. Mind the way you're using your shoulders, your jaw, your neck. And if that's okay, stay with the backward tilt, but bring the knees back down for a little sensation in the thighs and the front of the hips. And if that's really, really okay, You can go for quite a lot more sensation by lifting the pelvis up off the heels. This is not about the feet anymore. Please don't overdo it. It's not like you need to be able to do this to survive. Do it if it feels kind of nice. And then bring the bum down. Come back up to your kneeling, and if you can, tuck your toes and sit back on your heels. And that may be delicious for some and a little less delicious for others. If it's really not delicious, but you would like some toe mobilization, come back to your all fours and tuck the toes and just push back through the heels. So you're still getting all that toe flexion without the weight of your bum on top of your heels. It's quite tricky what you're doing there. And then if you can, flatten the feet again, but this time put one foot on top of the other. So the feet are like sandwiched on top of each other, and sit back on those feet. And those of you who've been with me a longer time will know that we're immediately going to change the feet. Other one on top and sit back. And we'll do that 2 more times on the same foot. I mean, 2 more times on the different feet. Swapping. And swapping. And another swap. And a last swap. And then take the yoga block if you have one, and if you don't, take your bolster. And if you don't have any of those, take a small stool or a box or anything that you can towards the front of the mat. You might end up not needing the support, but I have it there for you just in case you do. We're going to take the left foot forward. And then if you can, try and step the right foot forward to join. I will be moving the camera in a minute. And if you need the block to do that, do, or your leg, etc. Exactly. And then we're going to step the right foot back again. And as slowly as you can, bring that knee to the floor. And then step the other knee back. This is an exercise in torture for some of us. Right foot forward. Step up with the left. Whew, that's my weaker leg. Good job. Step back with the left. Knee to the floor. I did that very quickly because that's my weaker leg. Back knee, right knee back. One more on each side. Left foot forward. If you need the block, you lean forward onto the block and you step up and you come up. Otherwise, don't use the block. Right foot back, slowly as you can to the floor. And left foot back. And we will remain standing this time. You may be delighted to hear. Right foot forward, hands to the block or hands on the hips, or maybe hands forward to give you a chutzpah to get up. And there you are. And as you come to standing, just see what it's like for you being there. Is this a pleasant situation or a miserable one? Have you got some getting used to doing, getting used to standing to do? Quite a shift for the nervous system. And notice what you notice. And then we're going to take a little bounce, sense of dripping tension maybe off your fingers and dripping tension out of your feet. And unless, I don't think there's anybody in the cohort that has had a fragility fracture to their spine. So unless you have, and I've forgotten, but I don't think I have, we're going to heel tap. So banging your heels up and down off the floor. If it makes a little sound, that's great, because that means you're getting that bit of pressure into the bones. Keep the knees nice and soft, and our heart rate is going to increase. And if you want a bit of shaking off some of your stuff with your voice, that's really helpful sometimes. And then come to stillness and notice what you notice, probably a little fizziness in your body. And if you want to keep moving, you can. Maybe it's changed your mood to do all that bouncing. And it's great to notice what can change your mood, little things that might help you during your day. Certainly a bit of jiggy movement can do it for me. And then we're going to swing and let the heel that wants to come off the floor come off the floor as we swing. Great. I'm going to take my cardigan off because it's just flapping around. And then if you can, bring the arms up and back behind you to one side. So we're going more for sort of golfer's swing now. And a heel will come off the floor nice and naturally. And then it'll be really hard to change sides. So we're going to go down to the other side and up to the other side. It takes a while for the brain to get used to it. And mine still isn't used to it. It still feels weird doing this other side. That's it. Moving the heart tissue, literally physically moving your veins and your arteries. Really great. And then come back to center. And center yourself on feet that are about hips width apart. We're not getting slippy yet, but at any point that you need to take off your socks or want to, please do. Feet landing where they land. And if you're confident to close your eyes and stay balanced, do. If that doesn't feel like a happy place to be, keep your eyes open. And you need the feet about hips width apart for this next move. If they're too wide like this, you'll find you won't be able to do it. So under your hips or so. And then if possible, with eyes closed, rise up on your toes. You're not going to get very far if your eyes are closed. Let's see what you can manage. Just notice all those wonderful shifts and wobbles. Let those shoulders melt down. And then bring the heels down again. And then step one foot slightly back and the other foot slightly forward. So you've taken a very small step. And again, with eyes closed or open, try and rise up on your toes. Might be slightly easier. Use the wall or a chair if you need to, if you're wanting to play with the eyes open but you feel a bit spooked. And if you are using the wall or a chair, hold it really lightly. And then swap the feet so the other foot is in front, the other foot is back. And then rising up on the toes with the eyes closed if you can. And then bringing the heels down nice and slowly. And then open your eyes and bring the foot that's in front directly to touch the big toe of the back foot. Absolutely direct touch. So one foot in front of the other, Olive, rather than beside each other. That's it. So you're on like a tightrope. And if you can, cross your arms at your chest. Go back a step if you need to. Maybe already wobbling. If you can, close your eyes or open the eyes if that's too much. You want the challenge without falling. And you're working to try and stabilize yourself every single moment. And please notice the level of attention you are bringing to your body right now. Open the eyes, change the feet so that the other one is in front, touching its big toe friend, the heel touching the toe. And again, if you can get as far as eyes closed, please do, or step back from that, which is eyes open. And apart from this being a balance test and that you can notice it improving as the weeks go by and you work on your balance, I'm bringing it to you as a way of saying, this is the level of attention I'd love you to bring to every posture that you do. And then open your eyes. I'm going to take my socks off to be a good role model, but you know your socks and your yoga mat better than I do. So I'm not going to enforce anything. Obviously, I can't. But if we were being super sensible, we'd have bare feet. And we're going to step the left foot back a deep stride, and your right foot is going to be forward. Let your block be there somewhere towards the right foot. And once you find your spot, Can you draw? Doesn't matter what your hands do. I'm enjoying just having them here at my chest. You could have them on the hips if you like. Can you draw your right foot backwards and your left foot forward? So you feel this engagement of the muscle fibers of the legs. Soften the shoulders and jaw. And then push the right foot forward and the left foot back. So you feel a different engagement of some other muscle fibers in your legs. And then slowly bend the right knee with that same level of pushing the floor. You can see my mat is kind of stretched because I'm pushing one foot forward and the other foot back. And then pulling one foot back, the right foot back and the left foot forward. So you feel, again, different muscle fibers. And then because it's a bit more sustainable, just press the 2 feet straight down so the legs are engaged, maybe not as intense as just a moment ago. And interlacing your fingers, if your shoulder will manage rather, bring your hands behind your head. If that's too difficult for your shoulders, bring your arms to cactus. And if that's too difficult, bring your hands to your hips or behind your back. We're trying to get a little sense of length in the pectoral muscles and the shoulders, but it may not work for you, some of those hand positions. And then I'm going to get you to push your chin back towards your throat, like you're giving yourself a double chin and pushing back into the hands. So it's not lifting the chin and it's not pushing the head down, straight back as if someone's poking you in the nose. And with that sense of pushing back through the chin, lift the chest with a slight arching back without lifting the chin. So it's coming from the upper back. Fabulous. Take the arms away to cactus, keep that chin in that double chin, the double chin position, and then come up to vertical with that slightly more open chest. And breathe, and imagine that you are breathing into a balloon that's all around your rib cage, sides, front, and back, just under the shoulder blades. Strong legs. And then slowly turn to the right with the chest, but keep the navel pointing forward. So we're drawing a very upward spine twist here. The arms can be anywhere, but stay strong in the legs and maintain, if you can, a sense of openness around the rib cage. Inhale back to center. Use the muscles of the belly to turn. And exhale, bring your hands behind your back if you can, either interlacing the fingers or holding the elbows if you like, and straightening your right leg, but press down to your feet. Inhale. And as you exhale, over a straight right leg, but not locked, slight bend in the knee, really. Lengthen the body forward. You're thinking the chest forwards rather than down. Press into the right big toe joint. Lengthen the back of the neck. Give yourself your double chin again. And if possible, bring your fingertips to your block. I'm hoping you've got the block at its highest. There's certainly no reason for it to be low. And you can even pop it on top of your bolster. And if you want to put your 2 hands on it, you can do that, but try not to lean too heavily on it. So you're still strong in the legs. Lift through the pelvic floor slightly and lift through the lower abdomen to maintain strength, support for the spine. Soften the shoulders back from the ears. And if you can, now that we're settled here, take that right hand behind your back again. And this might be tricky for dodgy shoulders, or it might be lovely for dodgy shoulders. And see if you can bring it all the way over towards the left hip. So I'll stand up to show you what I mean. That right arm can come behind you, either to rest on the right buttock or across to the left buttock, depending on what your shoulder's happy with. And then turning that sternum to the right again. If you've osteoporosis, you must have neutral spine for a twist. So come right up even to left hand on the thigh if you've osteoporosis, perhaps, to keep that spine really neutral as you twist to the right. As little weight on the block as you can. Draw the right shoulder back and back and back. That's it. Yes, nice little adjustment, Karen. Draw the right shoulder vertically over the left shoulder as best you can. Beam that chest around to your window there that I think is There to your right. Yes, beautiful. That's exactly it. Inhale here. And exhale, bring the hands onto the hips, press down through the feet to stand up or to come up to vertical. And then this is one of the trickiest bits for balance and strength. How slowly can you let your left toes come off the floor to step to the top of the mat? Slow down that moment. Maybe spend a little extra time wobbling on that right leg as you step up to the top. Beautifully done. And then step the right foot back. We're going to be coming to the floor again soon for more yummy time. So see how you're feeling in terms of levels of effort. And we're going to do what we did on the right side, on the left side now. And just think, okay, if that was too much for you, how might you soften it this time? Or if it was just right for you, can you stay engaged and interested? So with the left leg straight for the moment, can we pull the feet towards each other? Left foot back, right foot forward, lifting up to the pelvic floor. And then push the left foot forward and the right foot back, feeling that effort in the legs. Step the right foot a little further forward, Karen, so your hips can face the front of your mat. The other right foot, the back foot. I want you to step it up the mat so that the hips can clunk towards the front of the mat. Exactly. Then slowly bend your left knee and press the feet into the floor. You can do the feet pushing forward and back, the left foot forward, the right foot back. Then the left foot back, the right foot forward. Use your breath. Breath on exertion. Exhale, push the feet straight down. Continuing to breathe with tone in the legs, tone in the belly and pelvic floor. Interlace the fingers behind your head if you can, and give yourself that double chin. Still with the strong legs and strong belly and strong pelvic floor. And then inhale to arch back with that double chin intact. And breathe. Pelvic floor, lower abdomen, legs, all engaged. And then release to cactus arms. And if that's uncomfortable, hands to hips is fine. And though you have this sense of openness in the armpits and chest, come up to a more neutral stance. So you're not arching back anymore, but there's sort of a residue, an echo of that arch. Keeping again tone in the legs, pelvic floor and belly. Use the muscles of your trunk to turn you to the left, keeping the navel or at least the hips facing forward. It's very much an upper back twist. Lots of breath. Beautiful. Anything you need to do with the arms, do. Relax the jaw and neck. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, release the legs and take your hands behind your back. You can do prayer position, you can hold the elbows, you can interlace behind, you can rest the hands on the hips. Inhale, strong legs, micro bend the left knee and pivot forward at the left hip socket. So avoiding this kind of position to go forward and instead moving from here as if someone's karate chopped your left hip. And your front body's on a shelf. Lift through the pelvic floor, press through the feet, lift through the lower abdomen, lengthen the back of the neck. Give yourself a little double chin. And if the block feels achievable, bring your fingertips to the block, but try not to lean heavily on it. Draw the left hip back. Remember the attention you were giving to your body when we did the eyes closed balancing poses. Maybe even close your eyes now and give your body that attention. Notice what feels pleasurable, and is there any way that you might shift your intention or your pressure that you're bearing on your body, or bring some sensual movement into the hips or the thighs or the belly, the spine, to soften towards pleasure. Coming right up onto the fingertips, take the left hand behind you, wherever it'll get to. Maybe you'll cross to the other hip. Come up as high as you can on those fingertips so that you're not at your extremis of a forward bend. You want freedom in that front hip. You can even come left hand onto the right hand onto the left thigh, turning the sternum to the left. Draw that left shoulder back. Imagine you have a torch beaming out of your sternum and try and shine it onto the wall beside you. Drawing the left shoulder back again. If you've osteoporosis, it's absolutely essential not to twist with a rounded spine. You must be up high enough that you can be neutral. Breathing, pelvic floor and belly toned. Relax the jaw and eyes. And then slowly inhale back to center, hands to the hips and stepping up as slowly as you can to the top of the mat. How slowly can that right foot come off? Like you're daring yourself. Yeah, beautiful. Lovely, great control. And then take a moment standing neutral. Maybe close your eyes, soften the arms and shoulders and jaw. And then when you're ready, float your arms up to the sky, breathing in. And exhale, bring your arms down. Step your left foot back, knee to the floor as slowly as you can. That might be your less strong side for slow coming down, and that's fair enough. Bring the other knee back. Just shove your blocks out of the way to the front or to the side, actually. No harm to the side. We might use it again. And come on to all fours and see if you want to either walk the knees back to do a kneeling plank or tuck the toes to do a non-kneeling plank. But what you're wanting to do is bring the weight forward over the arms so that there's a challenge to your core. Try to have the fingers pointing forward and the elbows not locked. Head in line with the spine, don't let the head hang. That's it, beautiful. And think about closing the fronts of your ribs. If your ribs were a pair of gates, if you were hanging those ribs, the gates would be open. Close the gates in towards each other and almost think of bringing your lower ribs down towards your front of your hips. Navel gently to spine. Shoulders back from the ears. Now, I don't want anybody with shoulder issues to lower down here in the usual yoga way. So if you have shoulder issues, you're going to kneel down and walk your hands back. Instead of, if you don't have shoulder issues, you can lower down onto the floor. If you needed to come back, then you're going to crawl your way out onto the floor and come back up into whichever one of those back bends you liked. So it might be down here with the head and the hands looking to the floor, shoulders back from the ears. It might be up in Sphinx, or it might be up in seal pose with the arms wide. We want soft shoulders. Yeah, that's exactly it. Rest the forward with that long back of neck. Pubic bone down, navel gently to the spine if you are off the elbows, if you're high up. And just bring, if you like, a little sensual movement into whichever version you're doing, which might feel like just a little squirm of the spine, or it might be a little tilting and play with the head or face, different angles of the face. Maybe it's like looking for the sun with your face, your eyes closed, perhaps. Or maybe it's little shifts in the pelvis, and the buttocks, or just in the shoulders. And then when you're ready, come down to your forward, if that's okay. It's not too claustrophobic, and take your arms behind your back. You don't have to interlace, but just, you can if you like, whatever feels nice. You could just hold hands. And then think your arms down towards your feet. I don't want you to be pulling at unhappy shoulder tissue, but just have a sense of the shoulders drawing down from the ears and a slight elongation of the arms without desperation. We'll do a tiny bit of back strengthening Inhale here, exhale, press the pubic bones down. And if you can, either elevate just your right leg or two legs, not from the knees, but from the hips and thighs. So the legs stay straight, the feet aren't lifting any higher than anything else. And if that's too much, bring those legs down and instead lift your face and chest, or lift the face, chest, and legs. But it's not about height. It's about muscular engagement of the back body. So engage the glutes, the buttocks a bit. And then we're going to do some really slow swimming from the hips. If it's too much, take your hands out onto the floor like little spider hands and just use very delicate support of your hands on the floor as you do a very slow motion swimming of those straight legs. It's very challenging for the muscles of the glutes, the hamstrings, and the lower back. Don't be surprised if it's tiring. And then when you're ready, melt, melt, melt to the floor. Lying on your belly. Very, very soft. Beautiful. And just checking in, if you spent time in this position earlier, is there any difference in sensation now? We did a lot of work, and we did some leg strengthening, which is beside the fact, but we did a lot of stuff on the thoracic spine and the rib cage, and a little into the shoulders there with what we were doing when we were standing. Just notice any difference to the positive or indeed to the tricky. All a learning. And then when you're ready, could you roll onto your back, please? We won't be getting any warmer, so if you need any bits and bobs to keep you comfortable, now would be the time. We're not getting into restorative just yet. We will be doing a little bit more movement. So lying on your back with your knees bent. We're just going to arch and flatten the lower back. So as you inhale, you're pressing your tailbone down, and there'll be a little gap will come between your back and the floor. And as you exhale, you're touching the lower back to the floor. You're rolling over the pelvis. The bum isn't lifting at all, or the pelvis isn't lifting at all. So you might think of it in terms of your sacrum, the bone, the rounded, curved bone at the back of the pelvis there, at the bottom of the spine that ends in the tailbone, that you're rolling up and down the length of it. And the sacrum is very like, the shape of it is not unlike a hand. So if this was the back of your sacrum on the floor, if the block was the floor, you're rolling to the tail, so that my wrist is the lower back, and then you're rolling up along the sacrum so the tail lifts and the lower back touches the floor. So there'll be a natural arching and flattening of the lower back without the bum having to lift at any time, or the pelvis having to lift at any time. And see if you can really feel that closed hand, back of hand shape against the floor. And you'll notice as you go that there are some muscles engaging with each movement. So as you exhale, your pelvic floor and abdomen will be engaging. You'll feel them needing some strength. And as you inhale, the muscles of your lower back should be engaging with a bit of strength. And each of those muscles lengthens on the opposite movement. Just bringing your awareness there, that's all. And then when you're ready, take either your squishy ball or your yoga brick or your squashed up cushion and put whichever one it is between your thighs close to your knees. So it's not up down at your groins, it's close to your knees, but not at the knees. And keeping a gentle hold on that, return to the arching and flattening. And you'll find that as you hold it gently, there isn't really a point where the pelvic floor stops engaging. And that's our intention here, is that we've moved from something very gentle to something moderately more demanding. Not a big deal. We're working with the muscles of the inner thighs and the pelvic floor. And the next time you exhale, could you instead lift the pelvis off the floor while gripping the ball or the block or the cushion? So now you are floating up into a bridge shape. And we're just going to pulse the knees into whatever you're holding for a pulse of seconds per pulse, a second per pulse, like this, for 5, pulsing in, for 4, pulsing in, for 3, pulsing in, for 2, lift the pelvic floor, for 1, and again for 5 and 4, lifting through the pelvic floor. Exhale on the push, and 2, and 1. Come slowly down. Keep hold of that block or ball. Get neutral in the pelvis so you don't feel extended in the spine. I want you to feel that there's just a tiny gap between your lower back and the floor. And this is quite a big addition. So if it feels dodgy in the lower back, don't do it. But if you feel able, slowly lift onto your toes. And if that feels okay, toning the belly and the pelvic floor, not pressing the lower back down, but not arching, slowly lift your feet so that your knees are about vertically over your hips and your feet are in line with your knees. Again, try not to overarch, but neither are you pressing the lower back into the floor. And imagine you have a block between your ankles as well, so that they don't end up touching. And pulse the knees together for 5, lifting the pelvic floor. 4, 3, lift the pelvic floor. 2, and 1. Hold in for 5, breathing out. 4, 3, 2, 1. If you can, straighten your legs. Take hold of the block and put it instead between your ankles slash shins, just above the ankle bone, because it'll probably hurt just above the ankle bone. And you can do it at its thinnest or its second thinnest. This is hard now. We're going to go back to tabletop or dead bug with the knees above the hips and the feet in line with the knees. Hands by your sides. This may be it for you. And if it's feeling dodgy in your lower back, it's too much and you should bring your feet to the floor and just say, okay, I'm done for today. Or if you're okay to do it, straighten the legs on a diagonal on an exhale, whoo, and bend, inhale. Exhale, straighten on a diagonal. Try not to let the lower back arch. And back in. If you have 3 more in you, go for it. If you find this is too easy, bring the legs further away. Geez, I'm wobbling here. And exhale, extend. Pelvic floor engaged. Last one of the horrors. Exhale out. Inhale, bend. See if you can reach the lower block with your hand. Take your legs out. Holy mackerel. Bring the soles of your feet together. Let the knees go wide and check in with your shoulders what they'd like to do. Would you like the arms wide, cactus kind of shape, or would you rather they rested on your body? The knees wide, the main intention there is to give a bit of extension to the belly and a bit of freedom for the pelvic floor. So just feel that lengthening of the belly and softening of the pelvic floor. Relaxing the jaw and the shoulders. And then we're going to roll onto our right side and take your right arm under your head. And if you find that difficult to do, you can instead put a block under your head if you need that right arm out in front of you. Just depends on your shoulder. We're not going to be here long. It's just a little side stretch. And then extend your left leg to the bottom of the mat and your left arm to the top of the mat, maybe touching the floor or resting on a bolster can be nice if you've got a troubled shoulder. And try and take your bottom waist off the floor. How do you do that? By reaching through the foot and the armpit, the top end foot and armpit. And breathe like banana pose on our sides, really. And then tuck your knees up in front of you and bring your two hands in front of your chest and sliding your right hand up your left hand up your right arm and across your chest with conscious caring touch and opening that arm onto the floor behind you. Stay open in that twist for a few breaths. And then thinking about what you would like to say to your body with your hand. Bring your hand back, your left hand back to your chest and kindly stroke that hand across the chest and along the arm, rolling onto the side again. Beautiful. And then roll gently over to your left side. You don't necessarily need to see me. It's quite an easy little bit of instruction. Resting your head either on your hand, on your arm rather, or on the floor, or on a low block or a folded blanket. It's not too high. And then extending the right leg and the right arm. Try and lift the left waist off the floor by reaching through that long foot and long. I like to reach to the armpit rather than the fingers, so you're not kind of desperately reaching with the digits. You're actually reaching from the side of your waist and breathing. And then bring your two knees up in line with your hips. Your head on the floor will feel more comfortable once we come into the twist. Left hand under the right hand, and with conscious touch, stroking up that arm, stroking across the chest with messages of whatever it is your body needs from you through that hand from your heart, and rest in that twist for a few breaths. Returning to your long breaths that I suddenly recognized I hadn't reminded you of since quite some time ago. And then what is it that your right hand would like to say to your body on its journey back to the heart, across the chest, and along your lovely arm? And just resting there for a moment. And then we'll settle ourselves into a nice restorative pose to finish. So if you're lucky enough to have a bolster, you get your bolster. If you don't, feel free to get pillows and cushions and books to make a ramp. You're welcome to do either a back bend of reclining cobbler or to put your legs up the wall if you're kind of looking for a nice, easy, sleepy pose. I would say legs up the wall. If you're looking for a shoulder stretch, a chest opener, digestive help, maybe the back bend would be nicer. And at the top end of your bolster or your pile of cushions where your head's going to be is going to be higher. So you might put something under the top of the bolster or a few cushions at the top, 2 cushions in the middle and 1 cushion at the bottom. And then you're going to also need cushions or bolsters or blocks for your knees if you're going to choose to do a back bend here. Sorry, not a back bend, but the hip position of cobbler. And you also might need your folded blanket, which can go at the top of the mat if you tend to find your head falls backwards. And if you have a bit of extra blanket hanging off the top, you can use that to pull over your head to cover your eyes in a minute. You sit on the floor at the bottom of the bolster if you're doing the back bend. The legs up the wall is self-explanatory. You get your bum as close to the wall as you can, and you roll over onto your back and flip your legs up the wall. If you're on the bolster, you're sitting at the front on the floor, and you lie back into quite the back bend, and you get your 2 knees wide onto plentiful cushions so you feel completely supported. And then you bring that blanket over the top of your head and maybe press it into your eyes. A really nice soothing thing to cover the eyes. You can do that with legs up the wall too. If you're doing legs up the wall and you've gone in sideways and found your way really close to the wall, a nice little addition, if you want to make it a little more of an inversion, is to put a flat block or cushion under the back of your pelvis. But that doesn't want to be touching the wall because you want the pelvis to be arched away from your face. If you're thinking of doing this, if you had the bolster or the block too close to the wall, you'd be falling down this way and you'd be rounded down through the lumbar spine. Whereas if you've got it up under the pelvis, then the pelvis tilts to the wall and you've got a lovely long spine. Lovely to see different choices in the virtual yoga studio. And for those of you who are here live, not that I want to distract you, but just to honor your time, just to let you know we are at time now. I'm going to stay with you for another few minutes, but just in case you have a time sensitive situation, it shouldn't make any difference to those of you on the recording, as you'll have already known how long the class will be before you began. And then just checking in with the bits of you that may have been a bit struggly, we mentioned at the end, at the beginning rather. And just bringing your attention to the struggles. And again, this sense of imagining them arriving home and knowing that they could ease up a little, calm a little, breathe a sigh of relief. Do you choose a conscious long breath or to let yourself drift now? Notice what feels good. What does your organism like about this moment? You have a choice to linger there, or you have the choice to end your practice. You've been about maybe 7 minutes there. If you are choosing to move, can you bring gentle movement wherever your body or any other bits of you draw you? And if possible, bring a little caring touch to any bits of your body that you're drawn to mind with conscious, compassionate, patient touch. And if you do choose to come and sit in silent meditation for a minute, you're welcome to roll to your side, find your way to sit, or you can even be conscious meditating while lying down. Just tuning in again to what is it that my body loves. And could you imagine the kind of awe and wonder and delight with which you might gaze upon a beautiful scene in nature? How much appreciation you would have at this beautiful view or beautiful accumulation of bits of the natural world. And knowing that your body is as incredible a piece of nature as anything that you could possibly view through your eyes, consider the possibility that you have no choice but to also look upon yourself with wonder, with awe. I wish you a 2024 filled with a sense of wonder and awe at this piece of nature that you hold in your hands. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May you be well. May you be free from harm. May you progress where possible. May you find ways to sit at ease with the rest. Om Shanti. Namaste. Thank you so much. I hope that you sleep very, very well.